You know, it's amazing. I think the biggest deception on this planet is when men, people, believe a lie. I was involved in the full gospel, non-denominational, tele-evangelistic ministry, sat under some of the most renowned, respected preachers of that era. There are a few of them scattered around. You still have these televangelists. And I think Jim Baker was the first one who really started the explosion of what these ministries can do. But the one thing after 20 years of being in the ministry, and perhaps you can also attest to this, is that the more they preach the great, wonderful, stupendous things that can happen to a person if they follow their teaching, is what we all look for. Usually you're going to gravitate to a message that appeals to your heart. Excuse me, and appeals to your agenda. But the sad thing about it is, where's the peace? Where's the joy? Nobody can sprinkle out breadcrumbs and have the flock follow because he doesn't have the answer. How can he know the turmoil in your heart and in your life? When God walked up to people or he spoke to people, it was always on a one-on-one basis because he knows the heart of his children. That dude doesn't know the heart. He may know what God dealt with him about, but the reason why you're taking the antidepressants and the drugs to try to find peace is that you're not turning to God yourself. Wonderful to listen to the preachers, like it is to listen to your brother or sister's relationship with your father or a relationship they have with their father, but you don't share a relationship with your father through another brother or sister. You go straight to dad. And if the person you're following went straight for dad to sit down at his feet and listen to him share the direction he thought you should take, well, then why are you going to a brother? If indeed your brother was inspired by dad, why aren't you going to dad? Right? He has an agenda for you. He has a place for you. And I was caught up in a lot of things. And one thing God spoke to me about in clear detail is stay away from the cult. And here I was in the full gospel ministry, serving the lusts of the flesh, greed, and a lust for money, power. Right? Jesus said in St. John chapter 8, he said, and the lusts of your father, you're a liar, and the lusts of your father you will do. You're just like your father, the devil, Satan. That if the person who you're sitting under is telling you that he's inspired by God, meaning the lips of God, and instead of you having a relationship with God, you're going through him, he's a liar. Because God sent his son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross so you can have a relationship with the Father, not through another man. That's his relationship with the Father. But the reason why you're taking antidepressants and all sorts of drugs and you're unhappy and you're oppressed is eventually you get tired of being used. If he's telling you he has the will of God and the best interest for you, he's a liar. God has, your Father has, the Creator has the best interest of you, not another man. There's no lie in our God. There's no shadow of turning in our God. The outrageous things he says comes to pass. And there's a reason why the outrageous things that man is talking about doesn't. But the phenomenal thing, the almost miraculous thing is you're still sitting at his feet while he's telling you he has God's plan for you. And the reason why Elijah had a face-off with the prophets of Baal was they were perplexed. The people were confused. They didn't know who to serve. The king, Ahab, was serving the prophets of Baal. He had them in his hip pocket. He told them everything they wanted to hear. The thing about God is he doesn't tell you what you want to hear. He tells you the truth. I was laying on the couch years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years, 4, I don't remember when. Doesn't really matter. I was in a place where I knew I shouldn't be. He woke me up and he said, she is to blame. And I was in a place where I shouldn't be, a place that I was having fun, doing my thing, satisfying the needs of the flesh. But it was where I wasn't in an extramarital affair. I was just in a place where God didn't want me. I ignored him for a little bit and I paid the price. And you know what happened every time there was a situation involved? I got the blame. I caught the rod. I was punished. No matter what anybody said, no matter what anybody did, it always fell back on me. You know why? I shouldn't have been there. And God woke me up. And to tell you the truth, he wasn't happy. Tell you another truth is, it's not the authority and power that I heard. After I woke up, I was laying down like this, and he jabbed me right here. And if you get jabbed right here, it kind of hurts. And I woke up with this pain and a voice booming at me. And it wasn't something that you can debate or dialogue and say, hey, wait a minute. Let's talk about this. There was no option. Nothing. That was the final point where I could say I was in a place where I shouldn't be. That person was doing something wrong, and I was accompanying them. So what do you think was going to happen to me? Why would I be punished because somebody else is doing wrong? Because you know in your heart, no matter how many drugs you take, no matter how many pills you take, no matter how much sessions you have with a psychiatrist or a therapist, they're not going to make it right until you get up from where you know you shouldn't be. Who cares about that preacher, teacher? Who cares about that synagogue or whatever religion you're serving? They're not going to tell you what God has told you. You can't drown out that voice. And I'm not the only one that God spoke to. Jesus Christ died so he can speak to his children. And what happens is we end up listening to sinners behind the pulpit lie to us. And the phenomenal thing is we believe them. And we keep believing them. If we had a stockbroker who lied every time that you lost money and you still had faith in them, and every time you went to go see a bank account, it was diminished or nothing happened, nothing improved, what are you paying him for? There was a stockbroker I had that I was so ignorant, so dumbfounded, that my son came and looked at the ledger sheet and he said, Dad, what are you doing here? You're not making any money. Like that, I was gone. If you're not making any money, you're not improving, you're losing money. You're not where you ought to be. You're losing. You'll never win. You know what God spoke to you. You want to get off the pills? You want to quiet that anxiety? You have to obey him. Do what he says. Do what he expects. He doesn't expect the same as you as he expects to me or the guy next door.